We have another solo cash cup finals, and we almost had another Peterbot win, but at the very last minute he was beaten out. I also want to talk about my predictions going into group 2s for FNCS. They start tomorrow and it's going to be extremely exciting, especially on NA. We have Muzz's team, Peterbot's team, Vidil's team, Booger's team. It's going to be stacked. I want to give my predictions how I think it's going to play out on EU and NA, and I also want to talk about the announcement of not only when FNCS Global Champs is taking place, how big the prize pool is, and where it is. There's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Before we talk about the Cash Cup, we have to talk about Global Championship. Yes, the $2 million land that's now taking place in September 6th and 7th. We got the dates and the location confirmed. We are going to France. More specifically, we're going to Lyon, France, which is outside of Paris. It's going to be super exciting. I feel like I'm really happy about this announcement. I know a lot of people are, for two main reasons for me. Firstly, visas. If you guys remember the last globals, it was an absolute nightmare because since it was in the United States, it's really hard to get visas from certain countries, mostly the Middle East and Russia, which meant that a lot of players who qualified and had every right to go couldn't go, and it really sucked. So I'm hoping that's not going to be as much of an issue. A lot of European countries have much better visa processes, or at least they're not as stringent or as strict, which again, I'm not going to get into the politics of that, but it should mean all the players who qualify get to go, hopefully. And French crowds are predominantly really good in esports. They're some of the best, most vocal, exciting crowds, and within Fortnite, they have very loyal fan bases. Right now, I know the French players aren't doing the best overall. I really hope we get at least 1 or 2 French players who qualify for globals. There are some big potential there, but even if we don't, both Gentlemates and Havoc, 2 French-owned orgs, are doing a very good job of getting a lot of hype around their players who aren't French but signed to their French orgs. If you guys have watched any of the Havoc streams on Waz's broadcast, or if you've watched Nikoff at all, you'll know how good their fan base is and how loyal they are. So I'm really excited to see a big, vocal, excited French crowd show up, and a lot of people from around Europe are trying to go. A lot of you guys keep asking me if I'm gonna go. I've never been to globals before. I would really love to go. This is a 32-hour flight from me, and that doesn't even include the 2-hour train trip from Paris. So we'll see how I go. I'm not saying I'm not going. I'm not saying I'm going. We'll see what happens, but I'm very excited to hear it's there. If you do want to go, they announced in the announcement post that tickets are going to go on sale on February 13th and 14th. So we still got about a week until tickets go live, but we have a confirmed prize pool and date. We have a new development in the extremely weird situation I was talking about in a recent video where players were getting disqualified from FNCS for stream sniping, despite them never having stream sniped, apparently never been accused of stream sniping, and Epic not telling them what they did or why. These players are now being put back on the leaderboards. I have no clue what's happening. In case you guys didn't watch my video, I'll sum it up very quickly. A bunch of teams just got disqualified from groups after qualifying because they were stream sniping, but they weren't banned. They weren't getting punished for anything other than being disqualified. All of them promised they didn't stream snipe. They've been reaching out to Epic for days now with no results, and now apparently they've been put back on the leaderboards and are eligible to play in FNCS, but the players don't even know if this is a mistake or not yet, because since they weren't banned, there's really nothing to go off in game other than whether the tournament is locked or unlocked, which quite often doesn't open up until right before the tournament anyway. But why would these players be put back on the leaderboard if they were taken off and never should have been on there? And even yet, if Pablo, Bevies, and Kiro, for example, one of the teams is back on the leaderboard, can now play in Group 2, what does this mean for players who are disqualified from Group 1 just because they didn't get put back on in time? They missed Group 1, but the Group 2 and 3 players are now fine. I have no clue. One of, if not the biggest mysteries in comp for me right now, one of the most confusing situations I've ever seen in this game's history, is just getting more confusing. All right, now let's talk about the tournaments. Let's kick off with the solo Cash Cup finals on NA. And if you watch this, you know what I'm going to talk about. Someone finally put a stop to Peterbot's run, and it was none other than Reet, which I feel like not only did Reet need this win, I feel like controller players around the world needed this win. After week 1, having Reet and Teeny both not make it out of groups, pretty much the 2 most notable controller players of the last couple years in competitive Fortnite, being kind of carrying, you know, the claims that controller players can still place really highly on the top regions, both of them struggling, and then Reet coming out and winning the solo Cash Cup finals by 2 points, only just beating out Peterbot, which is just ridiculous. This would have been Peterbot's 3rd official win. Should have been 4 if he didn't get stream sniped by the cheaters in the first week. So honestly, Peterbot absolutely decimating solos, but Reet showed up and performed really well. He won 3 of his 8 games, and he got a 0 elim 3rd in the very last game that had Peterbot in it. Peterbot got a 2 elim 6th to come 2nd, and they actually fought each other. At the very end of the game, Peterbot went for high ground. Reet managed to hold it. Peterbot went down without taking it. If Pete took out Reet right there in that moment, he would have won the Cash Cup. Or if he got anyone else eliminated, he would have won the Cash Cup. But Reet just edged him out. It was a phenomenal tournament to watch. We had Mason in third, a very underrated performance, come back from his holiday and already absolutely dominating now in FNCS and in the solo Cash Cups. Unfortunately, I believe fourth place is cheating. Then we had Muzz in fourth on 341 points, and then Sphinx on the tiebreaker in fifth on 341. So right now, Sphinx and Muzz have both been insanely consistent. Sphinx, Cooper, and Vidil, I've talked about them every single week with how good they are in solos. That trio is dominating solos. Vidil, you'll see a little bit further down the leaderboard. Unfortunately, Vidil had the chance to win the entire Cash Cup and got a super long queue in the last game. He got a 7+ minute queue to get into his last game or not get into his last game, which is really unfortunate because not only did a game start about 30 seconds before he got out of his game with all the top players like Reet, Peterbot, they were all in the same game. Vidil also had another queue pop in that 7 minutes that only started for players who were on 240 points and below. So because he was above 300, he didn't get the game. Despite players who around that 240 points ended up making money. They jumped up into the earnings. It was just Vidil got stuck in a really unlucky skill-based matchmaking scenario that we've talked about a lot with solos. The solos seems to be a battle of having a bit of luck with the queues. You either gamble it and play your last game out and try and hope for a short queue to get enough points, or you back out early like Vidil thought he did with 7 minutes and still not get a game. He did only miss it by 30 seconds, but that was tragic. Despite this, Sphinx and Vidil continue their trio's insane consistency right now in solos. Cooper didn't do as well as usual. He got 19th place overall, but he was extremely sick. He pretty much ended stream after the first couple of games saying he wanted to throw up. So we'll give Cooper a pass on that one, but really good performance. We had Yapko coming in 7th place, or I believe 6th. Really good performance from Yapko, who's been a bit quiet so far in solos. Threats also did extremely well. We had Ages up there, Noxy, Batman, Booga. We had Hari again. Hari earning yet again on EUPing in an NA solo Cash Cup. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, moving over to EU. This was a rough one. If you watched the EU Solo Cash Cup, you already know what I'm going to talk about. Unfortunately, there were a lot of cheaters. Like, it felt like I was watching a zero build tournament. At one point, 7 of the top 7, the entire top 7 in a row, all of them were cheating. The whole leaderboard. And I'm not talking like, you know, oh, they weren't like a really well-known pro. They only had like a few thousand earned. I'm talking like almost undoubtable cheaters. At one point, I checked the top 3, and the top 3 combined had only 12 events where they've ever placed inside the top 10,000. And now they were 1st, 2nd, and 3rd on the biggest, hardest region of solos. So it was a little bit rough. There was a lot of pros complaining on the timeline. So I feel like this finals is going to be a hard one to judge on just how good some of the players were, but it makes it even more impressive that the 14-year-old Romanian Demon Shark managed to get the win on 374 points. He managed to beat out literal cheaters. Not only beat them on the leaderboard, beat them in-game as well, and managed to avoid them or take them down to stay doing that well. Really good performance from Shark. He is obviously playing alongside Zhu and Ziandy. I've been gassing them up a whole bunch this season. They are already qualified to grand finals. Shark might be the future of EU right now, handling the pressure and doing it on stream, by the way. Shark did this all live on his Twitch channel. He usually streams on YouTube. Apparently there's a bigger Romanian audience on YouTube, but he is back on Twitch now as well. I'll put his link in the description down below if you want to check him out. Really fun player to watch. Extremely good. I'm super excited to see how that team does in grand finals. 2nd place, I'm pretty sure was cheating. We had Cringe do really well as well. Then we had Malabuka. Malabuka has been so unbelievably consistent right now in solos across EU and NA. Then we had Teeny. So Teeny doing really well while Reet was doing well. I did talk just then about how controller players are losing a lot of faith right now. Even Reet himself saying that if he doesn't make grands through last chance, he wants to switch to mouse and keyboard. But we have a good solo Cash Cup for controller players because we had Teeny and Moneymaker rounding out the top 5. Moneymaker's been a little bit quiet now. Moneymaker didn't stream this off content. Apparently off stream Moneymaker is a different beast. Then we had Panzer, who did really well last week. Also again, doing very well this week. Unfortunately, had a similar issue running into a couple of cheaters like he did last week. Then we also had Tayson at the top there. Lucy as well. Kurama, another controller player, doing really well. We had Fant. We had Velry. ADN, if you guys don't know, yes, That is like chapter 2 GOAT ADN. He has come back and he's been playing in all of the competitive tournaments alongside Michael. It's been really fun to see the OGs come back and pop off. I'm loving seeing them dominate and doing it in solos as well. Then we had Marius, Mumsy, and a few other really big names. Again, worth mentioning, I didn't make a video after opens, but Mongrel and Savage, both of them did not make the finals. I don't want to say they were cheaters, but I've never seen someone get bailed out so hard as Savage did. Savage, every single fight would have a player on like 10 HP and they'd hit the most ridiculous 180 max pump I have ever seen. Mongrel ended up only being one place away, so Mongrel doing really well, just missing out on the solo finals. I'm not super worried the fact that both of them did make finals for anything of what this means for FNCS. Both of them are looking really solid. Mongrel almost qualled. Savage got really unlucky, so I'm not panicking based on the way they played, especially when Panzer is absolutely dominating solos right now. Now, I spoke about groups a little bit earlier. We do have groups 2 and 3 the day after each other. I'm going to talk about groups 2 now, and I'll talk about groups 3 in my next video after I recap groups 2 as a little bit of like a teaser. NA group 2 is looking incredibly stacked. This is by far the most stacked group on either region because we have P, Cold, and Ritual, Booga, Aviv, and Threads, Vidil, Cooper, Sphinx. We got Skittles, Chimp, and Victor V. We got Rise, Muzz, and Yapko. We've got some extremely good teams. That's already 5 teams who I would be extremely surprised if all of them don't make finals. Again, there's 10 spots up for grabs, but we know there's going to be a few underrated teams taking Victory Royales, or at least we're expecting based on how EU and NA Group 1 went. But you got to remember the Eval Cup that took place this week, we had Peter, Cold, and Ritual win 2 of the games, and we had Vidil, Cooper, and Sphinx win 1 of them. The other one was won by Clicks, who isn't playing in this group. Obviously, he's already in Grand. So with 5 wins up for grabs and 5 spots of consistency, I'm really excited to see how this plays out. I mean, P, Cold, and Ritual, it'll be a shock if they don't win one of the 5 games. I'm guessing if they don't, it's because they're going to keep playing the tournament out to make sure no one goes Flooded Frogs, because if they win game 1, someone takes Flooded Frogs, they can qual Grands and might think, hey, let's go Flooded Frogs. And P's a team that is honestly doing so well right now, they could probably deliberately not win a game and still guarantee they qual. Like, let's be honest, it would be a massive shock for them not to qual, but it's Fortnite. You never know. They, throw game 1 deliberately. Their game 2 maybe doesn't go the best. They like have a couple bad fights. Maybe they do okay. They can't get the win, but then game 3, someone crashes. Game 4, I mean, what am I saying? They're gonna make it, but you know what I mean. Like, maybe they're gonna be a little bit scared to not just instantly throw the game. We'll see, maybe. But you gotta imagine P's gonna get a win. Vidil, Cooper, Sphinx are almost definitely gonna get a win. I think we still do have other teams like Macwood, Cam, and Bacon, who I think are a very underdog team. Macwood is qualified to grand finals through so many reboot round style tournaments. He is extremely good in these situations. Rise, Muzz, and Yapko, if they get a good zone, especially out of Shattered Span, could easily pull off a win. Booga, Aviv, and Threads, we haven't heard too much about Booga. Booga has been preoccupied with other financial endeavors right now. If you've been following social media, you know what I'm talking about. Booga, maybe not as dialed in as what he usually is, but still, it's Booga. Booga, Aviv, and Threads are a phenomenally good team who obviously, even if none of them are playing the game at all, haven't touched it the whole season, they'll still make grands unless something goes horrifically wrong. Now, we have some fun spawn fights to watch as well. We have 3 teams trying to claim Demon's Dojo. We have Pastor Jack, Phenom, and then Freak's team trying to go Demon's Dojo. Gonna be very interesting to see how that one plays out. We have Avery up against Sinetto down at Lost Lake, trying to go Clix's drop spot right now. We then have Plaz and Day going out at Twinkle Terrace. We have Whiffy Wharf being contested by Nut and then Maxo. We have Cyrus and Zerx trying to go the south mountain split just towards the south of Canyon Crossing. So most of the big teams are uncontested, with a few decent teams being contested. If Broken's team gets a win, for example, off spawn and has a good game, I could easily see them win a game out of Brutal Boxcars. We have Decay versus Jay over at Kappa Kappa Factory, but I think there's a few teams that could sneak through here. I think I would love to see Freeze, Hydra, and Webs to take a win out of here, or maybe get a top 5 of consistency. Sparebo's team, Sparebo, Zackles, and Joe have shown the potential they can get top 5 consistency, maybe a win if they have a really good game. But I think the underdog team I'm expecting to maybe take a win with this many Titans in the lobby is probably going to be Macwood, Cam, and Bacon. Moving over to EU Group 2, most people have their eyes on EU Group 3, but I still think there's some really good teams in Group 2. Obviously, we have Queasy, Swizzy, and Mustache, and they are uncontested at Seaport. It's been really hard to gauge how good Queasy's team is this season because they've been getting contested. They've been winning the spawn fight considerably, overwhelmingly. Like, they have won almost every single time they've been contested at Seaport, but being contested, slowing it down, especially in a big POI like Seaport, it really does slow down your gameplay. And even if you win the spawn fight, qualify, it could really affect your game. So seeing them uncontested is gonna be really, really fun to watch. I would be extremely shocked if they weren't to qualify. We have Pink, Nebs, and Chino going Demon's Dojo uncontested. That is a very good team that could take this one home. We have Yanis, Noah Riley, and Chap over at Master Meadows. We have Strapped, Hellfire, and Skrill, which I think is a very underrated chance of getting a victory out from Kappa Kappa Factory. We have Ilusha, Nefrizzi, and Starkus down at Hopeful Heights. Far edge of the map drop, but they are uncontested. We do have some big fights. We have Volko, Fastroki, and Ankido, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, up against Andalex, Sato, and Marco at Night Shift. We have a triple contestation for Warriors Watch. Have no idea why Warriors Watch is so hot. We have Albaxna, Kind Call's team as well, and they're currently going to be going the Dam. Now, the reason why I'm hyping this team up so much is because Albaxna is one of 2 female players, as far as I'm aware, in groups across EU and NA. We have Somerset playing on NA, and we have Albaxna playing on EU. I really hope Alba can qualify here to Grands. We have never seen a female player make Grands, at least on EU and NA, so I'm really, really excited to see if Alba can be the first one to do that. She earned in solos early this season. She's been doing really, really well. It would be exciting for the female comp scene to have that placement and make a grand finals. We also have our all trio French team of gentle mates, Akira, Podesai, and Exweezy. Now that I've found out that the LAN is going to be in France, I really want some French teams to make it to the finals, especially a triple French team signed to gentle mates. That would be amazing for the crowd vibes. They're dropping Lost Lake, a very strong POI, and also going to be getting the gas station for the extra metal nearby. We have Nathan, CZB, and Eclipse. I don't think Nathan gets enough hype for being one of, if not the best controller players on EU right now. Now that Teeny started struggling, Nathan and CZB were doing really well in duos. Put Eclipse with that, and the trio was looking very, very good out of Twinkle Terrace. Outside of a team that I think could maybe pull off an underrated win, I could see Noms. We have Noms, Rezoy, and Grippe. They're going up against Memo's team at Flooded Frogs. That is a very good POI for a very good team that could definitely take a top 5. Being contested is going to be hard for the consistency, but I think the win definitely could do it for Grippe's team as well. It's going to be a fun group. I know most people have their eyes on Group 3 because of Mongrel, Savage, and Panzer, but I do think EU Group 2 is going to be very exciting. There are a lot of big names in here who could fall short, because I think while it doesn't have a lot of the massive star power, there's a few notable teams. I do think the average skill of this lobby is quite solid.